Hilchas Tumas Ochlin Perek Chamisha. Now a mikveh that's arboim saw in the ground, so for sure it's not makabel tumah. That we learn out from a pasuk that it's not makabel tumah. Fakir the tummy that's toivel in it, so the tummy becomes tor. But not that the mikveh becomes tummy. The mikveh can never become tummy. Now that's tumah when it's arboim saw. Now minat teira be'emes, any body of water which is mechuber lekarka cannot become tummy. Not only if it's arboim saw, any body of water which is mechuber lekarka cannot become tummy. But midrabanan, according to the Rambam, if you metame the water, this is less than arboim saw, which is bekarka, so then it is mekabel tumah. That's shitas aram. The Ravid holds that even midrabanan, water that's mechuber lekarka is not mekabel tumah. Mashenkin the Ravid hold, the Rambam holds that that arboim saw is taken not mekabel tumah. Mashenkin, if it's less than arboim saw, it could be mekabel tumah if it was nistami berotz. That's this din here. Now look, perek chamishas. Mayim shebekelim, the mayim that's in the keli is detached from the ground, is mistamin, so they could become tummy, bein l'ratzim, bein shalei l'ratzim. And also umetamin oichlin v'kelim, and they could be metami oichlin v'kelim. Now mayim tmeim, mashkin tmeim could be doch metami kelim, can be metami adam, but it could be metami kelim midrabanan, umetamin oichlin v'kelim, bein shenofel aleim beratzim, bein shenofel aleim, bein shalei nofel aleim beratzim. So either way, it could be Makabel Tumah Bein Baratzim Bein Shalei Baratzim, and it could also be Matami Bein Baratzim Shalei Baratzim. That's talking about Mayim Shebekelim, which is detached. Aval Mayim Shebekarkois, Kegei Meiberis Sichnu Moaris, which is different types of Beris. In other words, it's a round bear, or a square bear, or a rectangle bear. And Meigvoim is just puddles, small puddles of water. She'ein Bem Arboim So, but Lepel is Mechubet to the Karka. So the din is ein mistamen elo l'ratzon. In order to be metame this water, which is mechuber lekarka, is only if you're metamed b'ratzon, and also the ein metamen elo b'ratzon. After they're tummy already, in order for them to make something else tummy, also has to be b'ratzon. Ketzat mayim shebekarka she'ein b'm arboim so bein sho yeshuvim bein she'einam shuvim shenafa l'teichen ha-mess, just fell in, the mess fell in there, it wasn't b'ratzon. A person that was tummy went there, but he wasn't interested in going in the puddle. He was just interested in going in makim l'makim. And Derech Agav, we went through the puddle. So the din is harei l'teirim, because there was not l'ratzin, and it's only mistami l'ratzin. Avol im shasim em adam tummy. A person that's tummy went and drank from this water. So maybe he wanted to touch the water. Eishem mila b'em b'keli tummy. So again, you wanted to touch the water with a keli tummy. Eishenafel ham techen mashkin tmeim beratzin. Mashkin tmeim fell in beratzin, and that mashkin tmeim was mitam, since it fell in beratzin. So the mashkin tmeim was mitami the other mashkin. So as harelu tmeim. So then the other mashkin become tummy because it was beratzin. V'afal pishein bekarka. That's the chidush that mayim that's in the karka if it could become tummy if you were mitami it beratzin. Now this is talking about benegeh becoming tummy. Now what about being mitame? Being mitame. Shasim ator acher shnitmu bekarka. Now the Torah went ahead and drank from this mayim tmeim after they became tummy bekarka. Now the din is that when a person that's Torah drinks from mayim tmeim, he becomes tummy. Eishemila ben bekeli Torah. So now the question is, does the keli become tummy? So since he was being mamali, was beratzim. So say the person that drank from the water, so he becomes tummy, and say the keli which you filled up with the mayim tmeim becomes tummy. So memela is nitma sheisa and nitma keli. They both become tummy. Say the sheisa and say the keli. Sharei beratzim shasa imila. So this act was done beratzim. That's the number one. Now the emphasis lechura, you could ask that when a person drinks water, so that water be'emes is the water tmeim. Now the question is whether he was matame him. Now when he drank it, it became tolush. So the water is being matame him, water dichtolush. So bishlam, when the water is still mechuber lekarka, so for the water to be matame something, you're saying it has to be l'ratzin. But now l'chura, when you took the water out of this pool of water, and now you drank it, so l'chura at that point in time the water was tummy, which was tolush. So l'chura, what do I need this din that it was l'ratzin, even if it was shalei l'ratzin? Now that is that when the keli became tummy, so it already became tummy in the keli, so now it's in the keli. So l'chura it's tolush. So on that they bring also that the pshat is that it has to be nitlash baratzin. In other words, the din is not only it has to be nitma baratzin, but it has to be nitlash baratzin. Since baratzin he was tailish it, and then he drank it, and it was betrotzen toilishit, and therefore it's metame the keli. But if it wouldn't be of that rotzen, so taka wouldn't be, like we'll see also in the next halacha. Nafel l'teichen kika shel truma. So you have a pool of water, which the water is tame because it was nistami l'rotzen, but now a kika shel truma fell into that water. So the din is hareu tar kshahaya. So that kika shel truma is still tar she'ein mistamel l'rotzen, because you don't become tame from that body of water only if it's l'rotzen. Lefichach im hidiach yadi, if a person put in his hands and he washed his hands because he was interested in the water to wash his hands, so that water was already l'rotzen. And now v'hoitzi hakikar, he takes the kikar out, is nitma kikar b'mayim shebiyadav. So now the kikar becomes tummy b'mayim shebiyadav, because that mayim shebiyadav is shareheim beratzen. They were beratzen. Now even though l'chura the mayim shebiyadav now when he takes out the kikar is l'chura tlushim. Again it's tlushim. So what do I need that the mayim shebiyadav should be matame the kikar because it's l'ratzen? L'chura the mayim shebiyadav is like mayim shebikelim, which are matame even shalei l'ratzen. The answer is no, because since you are toilishit from mayim shebekarka, it has to be nitlash beratzen. If it wouldn't have been nitlash, in other words, when you put your hand into the water and to take out the kikar, so lapel, your hand got wet, but since lapel, the hand or the water, the mayim that's on the kikar is coming out of the water, but lapel, so l'chur it's outside, it's already tolish. So let that water be matame. That water is the chtame. The answer is no, because since it wasn't nitlash beratzen, so even though right now it's already tlushim, but it has to be nitlash. In other words, it has to either be metami beratzen, even in the water while it's in there, it can be metami beratzen, or it has to be nitlish beratzen to be metame al tzmayim klush. Halacha base. So now we learned that water that's less than arboim so, that if it was nitbe beratzen, it becomes tummy. But on the other hand, if the water comes into that mayim, water comes into the water that's tummy, and it comes in shalei beratzen, so that water doesn't become tummy. That water is taridika water. So it's like taridika water that's going into tummy-dika water, and that tummy-dika water can't be matayr the taridika water because that tummy-dika water is only matami beratzen, is only matami beratzen. So if you have a mushroom make shamim that's coming into that water, so that make shamim is not becoming tummy because again the make shamim is not coming in beratzen. So therefore now it's ravu make shamim on the tummy-dika water. And then the din is that pool of water becomes tar. That's the nakud of this din. Again, in order for something to become tamei from mayim, which is mechuber lekarka, which is tamei, it has to be beratzen. So memela, if a person pours in water into their beratzen, so memela, so that water will become tamei. But if it rains in that water, so that water is not going to become tamei because that wasn't beratzen. And memela fakir, so that made kshamim is going to become rabu on the mayim tmeim, and memela will be mavatal the mayim tmeim, and it will become uistami. So that's halacha. Halacha base. Mei gvoim ukiyeitzebem mimayim shebekarkois. You have puddles of water. Any water that's bekarka, geng meibere, sichno ma'ores, or a meitamtza sheposko. Meitamtzas means water that's coming down from a flow of the mountain, from the rainwater. But now that flow is already finished, so now all you have is a puddle of water, which originated from rainwater. A body of water that doesn't have arboim so, shenitmul, all these things that became tummy, all these cases of waters that are bekarka and they became tummy because they became tummy beratzen. And now v'yardu lehem kshamim. Now rain fell on these bodies of water, on these water that's less than arboim so. V'rabu make shamim aleim, and now there's more make shamim than the original puddle, than the original amount of water that was there originally. Is afal pishali shatfu, even though it didn't overflow. So we're not saying that the tummy dika water came out. The tar dika water was added to the tummy dika water, but the tummy dika water never went out. It wasn't shatfu. It's nevertheless harei and teir. So it's still tar. In other words, if it was rabu make shamim on top of this water, and now we're talking about make shamim, so memela it wasn't beratzen until make shamim didn't become tummy. So memela, so this whole puddle becomes tar. Lefichach kol hamayim shebekarkois. Generally, water which is in karkois megvoim ukiyesvam, waters of puddles ukiyesvam b'shas haksham during the rain is hakil b'cheskestara. We always look at puddles of water during the rain b'cheskestara because we assume that even if it became tummy, but since it was rabu mekshamim and the rabu mekshamim made it tor. Now posku haksham. Now the rain finished. Now the question is, did these puddles become tummy? Is akrevim li'irul? There are those puddles that are near the city or near the road. is Tmeim. Shari Becheska, Sheshasim Ematami, that someone that was tummy went ahead and drank from these waters, or Vishamilu Ben Bekelim Tmeim, or they filled it with Kelim Tmeim. Mashenkim V'Harechekim, those that are far from the city or far from the road, is Teherim, they're still Teher, Achi Halchorevod, until most people start walking, and therefore there's more of a chance that these people ended up going near these puddles and filling up, either drinking from these puddles of water or filling up water from these puddles of water. So then we assume that Torah. But once Reb and the Adam will start walking already, so then we're choshesh that maybe someone that was tummy went ahead and either drank from these waters or filled up with a keli tummy. Now holchus, so then akel becheskes tummy. Why? Shahilchim b'shayoris mimal b'sheisimim, because it's people that walk with shayoris. They go with large groups of people that are traveling. So therefore, they go ahead and fill up from all these puddles. When do we say that we're choshesh that this puddle, or this body of water, maybe someone that's tummy went ahead and drank from it, or filled up water from it with a keli tummy, begavish af shalishtisman. We're talking about a part of a geva, which is a pool of water which is possible to drink from. In other words, it's something which is like above the ground. You don't have to really go down very deep in order to get it. Avol begaver, if in other words, we're talking about a very deep hole in the ground. In order to be able to drink from it, it would be very, very involved and not so pasha to be able to go and drink from this geva is hareza becheskes k'tara. So then we assume it's tar. In other words, when we're talking about regular pools of water, which in other words maybe it's a little far, but people could reach it, not such a difficulty. So then it's becheskes tummy. Masha'inkin, if in order to drink from it would involve a lot of difficulty, so then it's hareza becheskes tara. Achi yimotzi parsis ragla b'nei adam. Either you'll find the footsteps of people, so that's evident that people were here. Oy parsis ragli behemagasa, or the parsis of behemagasa, which people could ride on in the Keres Bay. So then we could say that, we see that people were right here next to this gavin. Mela, chances are that an Adam Tummy went ahead and drank from it, or someone went and took a Keli Tummy and took water from it. Aval motza parsis ragli behemadaka, but if he finds the footsteps of sheep or behemadakas or goats, is areza torsha efshe shiar de v'shasas. It could be that the behema went down to drink, but the behema is not metamis, and merely there's no concern. Halacha daled cheskas tit ugmumies shebepischei chanuyas b'shusarab mishas kshomim shehin teirim. Whereas the tit is the mud, ugmumies is miloshin guma, that's at the openings of the chanuyas in Rishus Harabim during the rain, is shein teirim. So even though it's like next to a chanus, so over there it's easy for someone to be metamit. But on the other hand, we assume that since it's rabu aksham, so therefore they're torah. Now pasku akshamim, so then harein k'meshviches, and the din is the meshviches, all wastewater, sewage water is considered tummy. That's talking about next to the chanuyas. Now what about the shebishvakim? Is over there holchem bem achar. We see what was the most. In other words, was the more meshviches there or make shamim there? In other words, if there's still more make shamim than meshviches, so then we go basa the make shamim. So even though the meshviches may have fallen into the make shamim, but those make shamim aren't going to become tummy, because lepeil, water that's in a bear doesn't become tummy, only l'ratzon. So even though the meshviches falls into the bear, but as long as it's not rave, so the rave is still make shamim, so therefore it's not tummy. So that's shebishvakim helchem achar rave. Now geve shenafel letechi yayin echol v'dvash. Now, as the Rambam is going to say in Halacha Hey, that this whole din of mayim shebekarka is only mistamel l'ratzon, is only a din of mayim. Mashenk and other mashkim, there's no such a din. Other mashkim is mistami, even shalei l'ratzon. This whole musik that mayim, mayim is bottled to the karka, and it's not mekabel tumah, and minateir it's never mekabel tumah, and it's only midrabanan mekabel tumah, but ratzon is only a din of mayim. Mashenk and other mashkim is always mekabel tumah, even if it's in bekarka, even shalei l'ratzon. So as a geve shenafel letecha yayin echol v'dvash. Now the question is it going to be mistame l'ratzon or even shalei l'ratzon? Is helchem be'achar. It depends what the most is. If the most is mayim, so it's only l'ratzon, and if the most is yayin, so even shalei l'ratzon. That's talking about yayin echol v'dvash. However, nafel letecha shemen, if shemen fell into this geve, into this puddle of water, is afal pi sheik pio. Even if you took the shemen out, so the chura is only very little shemen left. But nevertheless, I raise them mistami u'metami shlei beratzim. Why? In other words, there'll always be a little shemen left over. In other words, you're not going to be able to take out all the shemen, and since that shemen doesn't really become mu'uriv with the mayim, so mele it doesn't become bottle. In other words, yayin cholav udvash, which becomes mu'uriv with the mayim, so over there we go basar reiv, because it become bottle bereiv. So therefore, if the reiv is mayim, so mele it's only mistami l'rotzen. Mashenk in shemen is always mistami, even shalei l'rotzen, and even with the little bit left over shemen is mistami shalei l'rotzen. Halacha. Shemen ushar mashken chutz min hamayim, so harehu bekarka k'meishu bekelim. The nechad which is bepastas the hagdama, really talacha dalad. In other words, that's why this din is that this whole din has only been again mayim. That's what we're saying. Does it have a din mayim? Does it have a din of other mashka? Halacha vov. Mei tamtzes shalei paskol. Now mei tamtzes, we said before, was water that's rainwater that's going down a mountain, and that water is flowing down the mountain because of the ribu rain that was in the mountains. So therefore, the water is flowing down the mountain. There's afal pisha ein bem arboim so, even though that water doesn't have arboim so, aber heil v'hei bekarka, v'rei hamayim nimshachim u'boim lehem. So therefore, ein makabel tuma. That water is not makabel tuma. V'afal pisha shasem mehem atamei u'mila bem b'kli tamei einosan l'teichon mayim tmeim is nevertheless hareim teherim l'chol davar. That water, the meitamtzis, which is lei posko. This whole din, that water is mekabel tumah when it's less than arboim so, that's only talking about when it's standing. Masha'enken over here, this meitamtzis, which is still being nimshach from the mekshamim, it's like being nimshach from the mekshamim, it didn't never like got a place, so that water is not mekabel tumah, they're not mekabel tumah, and even if a tummy actually drank from that water, it doesn't become tumah. Halacha zayin, mi shahaya oichel truma biyadayim tmeis, k'bein tvela shli huchshiro. So there was truma in his mouth. He had yadayim tmeis, and that truma can't be makabel tuma yet because the truma is lehukshira. Now v'hichnes yodi l'tech piv. This person with the yadayim tmeis put his hand in his mouth, little tzrei, to take a pebble that was in his mouth. So he was eating this fig in his mouth, and he puts his hand in his mouth to eat the fig, to take a pebble. Now the question is, on this, when he puts in his hand in his mouth, he's also going to be touching the moisture on the pebble or on the, he's going to be touching the moisture in his mouth. Now this moisture in his mouth has a din of mashke. That was from Tuldas Hamayim we learned. Now mashke, when it's mechuber, this mashke which is in his mouth, the pashtus is mechuber. So lechura, since it's mechuber, so the pashtus it wouldn't be mekabel tumah. Since the mashke is mechuber, it would only be mekabel tumah l'rotzen. It's not arboim so it wouldn't be mekabel tumah only b'rotzen. He has no rotzen in touching the liquid in his mouth. All he's interested in is taking out the pebble. Now, if this mashke was already detached from his mouth, so then that mashke is already not considered mechuber, and then it's mekabel tumah even shalei b'rotzen. So mele, so then that the hand that he has, yadayim tmeis, is going to be matame the mashke, and that mashke is going to be matame the dvela. So the question is that mashke that's on that pebble, is it considered mechuber? It's not considered mechuber. So it depends. If he moved it, if that mashke was moved, if he just, the pebble was just in his mouth, he goes in and puts in his hand and takes the pebble out. So even though he touched moisture, but that moisture was considered mechuber because it was mechuber to his mouth, and therefore nothing became tummy. Not the mashke became tummy, not the truma became tummy. Mashenkin, if that moisture, let's say he moved the pebble before, because he had the pebble in his mouth and he moved it, or he turned his finger, there was like a movement that moved the pebble away from the mouth, within the mouth, even within the mouth, not away from the mouth, even within the mouth, it moved it away. So Mimela, that mashke that was on the pebble became detached. So since it became detached, now when he touches that mashke, so he's touching mashke which is detached, and Mimela it becomes tummy the truma. Again, let's read inside. Misha ya'echel truma b'yadayim tmeis ke'in tvela shli hushiro. So Mimela, the dvela itself can be mekabel tumah. Now v'hichnas yadol l'tech piv, he put his hand in his mouth, little tzureh. The purpose was to take a pebble. Is im hafach, if over there was his nose, the pebble was moved from one part of the mouth to the other part of the mouth. So that in itself was considered that it was detached from its original place. So then nitmas had dvela berire. So the dvela becomes tamei because of the rear, because of the saliva in his mouth. Shari nitma biyad, it became tummy with the yad mipnei shakri, because since that mashke was nekar, knows the fact that it was hafach caused that the mashka in his mouth should be nekar. Since the mashka was nekar, so therefore his hand was able to be metamed than mashka. So memela, so now the dveil also becomes tamid. However, v'imli hafach, if that mashka was never nepach, so then it's teira. So then it's teira. Shamashka shebepiv kedem sheyapchenu a metzitzenu lehitziyah, because this mashka that's just the saliva in his mouth before he actually moves it, in order he moves it somewhere within his mouth, a metzitzenu, or he starts sucking it lehitziyah in order to take it to spit it out of his mouth, is deima lemayim shelei nitlushu. It's deima to water which was not detached from the ground. Ela hein adayin bekarka sheim mistamen veim metamen ela l'rotzen k'mesha biyarnu v'ze'erin seinei ela little atzred. He had no interest in touching the mashke in his mouth. His interest was only in taking that pebble. So memela, if the mashke that was in his mouth had a din of mashke that's detached from his mouth, so that mashke becomes tamei, and then it's metame also the dveil of truma. Masha'inkin, if that mashke never became detached from his mouth, and since he has no interest in touching the mashke, he's only interested in taking out the pebble, so therefore the mashke doesn't become tummy and the truma is tor. Now, hoye pundin l'techpiv, he has a coin in his mouth. Upashad yadi litle, and now he puts in his hand in his mouth to take that coin out. V'hadveila b'techpiv, and again there's a dveila of truma in his mouth. Now the question is, again, is he being metame the mashke in his mouth? Now again, the nukud of the shaila is the mashke in his mouth considered attached to the mouth, or is it considered detached? Now, if he was interested in the mashka moving, there's regular mashka in the mouth, even though you put your hand in your mouth, there's a wetness in your mouth, but all that mashka is considered mechuber. In order for the mashka to not be mechuber, there has to be an interest. You had to move that mashka. So if you put this coin in the mouth in order to somehow or another quench your thirst, in other words, having a coin in your mouth causes you to have more saliva in your mouth, and through that you'll be quenching your thirst. So basically, you were interested in gathering saliva in your mouth. So that saliva was gathered in your mouth and detached from your mouth. So therefore, it's considered susceptible to tumah, even shalei beratzim. Nachamo. Hoye pundin l'techpiv, v'pashad yadi litlei, v'hadveila b'techpiv, and you have over there also a dveila of truma in your mouth. Is a minichil samei, if you put it there in order to quench your thirst, so which basically means you put it in there in order that saliva should gather. Says so the saliva that's in your mouth is considered detached. And the so now the dveila will become tummy from the mashke shebepiv. Shenitma machmas yadov became tummy as a result of yad. Halacha ches hoisha shehoisa icheles echli shel truma she'ena muksharim. She was eating truma that wasn't mukshar. V'hoisa girefes es hataner hatome, and she was like cleaning out a tomer dikataner. So her hands were tummy, and v'hika hakoitz v'yotzim imenu dam. And now a thorn touched her finger or her hand, and dam started coming out of her hand. So now this dam really has a din of mashka, and this dam is in a tanur tummy. So be'am is this dam has already a din of dam tummy. Now now she put her finger into her mouth because of the dam. So at this point in time, l'chura, the dam, which is tummy, because it became tummy from the tanur tummy, so that dam, which is tummy, was mitame, the truma, which is in her mouth. Sign machshir and sign mitame at the same time. We're talking about, she was eating truma she'ena muksharim, but the dam was sign machshir and sign mitame at the same time. That's one case. A, shenichvis. The first case was she started bleeding. Now shenichvis, she burnt her finger, or burnt her finger. The nosna etzba bepiyah. Now she put her finger in her mouth in order to cool down her finger. Is nitmes ap truma shebepiyah. So the truma which is in her mouth becomes tummy. Sharit seina lehetzi amashke mepiyah. Now when the saliva in her mouth is the mechuber, as we learned before. The saliva in her mouth is mechuber, but over here she's putting her finger in her mouth in order to get the saliva on her finger. So in Mela, she wants to detach the saliva from her mouth. Now once she detaches that saliva from her mouth, so that saliva becomes tummy. That saliva, first of all, becomes detached, and she detached it, and that saliva becomes tummy with her finger because her hand is tummy. Now once that hand, the saliva is tummy, so now it's also machshir, and it's also metame, the truma, which is in the mouth. So that's how it works. So nitmis atruma shebepia sharitzenu lehesa mashka bepia uloakrein to take it out b'metzitzas ha'etzba by sucking at the finger. So let's read it again. Hoisha shoyso yicheles echon shel truma she'ena muksharim and v'hoisha gerefes satan ratomi and v'hika aketz v'yotzim imenu dam umotzitzo etzbo mepnei hadam. So she sucked her finger mepnei hadam. Oy shenichvis v'nosna etzbo bepia. So the din is nitmas atruma shebepia. Why? Sharitzenu lehetzi amashka bepia ulo akrei b'metzitzas ha'etzba. Now l'chura the word metzitza, the Rambam just said benigeh the dam umotzitzo etzbo mepnei hadam. L'chura over there it's not really negeh umotzitzo. Over there l'chura over there is negeh only that she put her finger in her mouth because lepel since the dam started coming out while it was in the tanner, so that dam became tummy. The dam was in the tanner. The dam is the din of mashke, so it becomes tummy mitzad the tanner. So you don't really need umotzitzo. In the next case, nichvez v'nosna etzbo bepia. So over there it's saying lehetzi amashke bepia because she wants it to go on the finger. Ulo akre b'mtzitzas ha'etzba. So it's just interesting that the word mitzitza the Rambam uses. The word mitzitza originally the Rambam used benigeh the dam. He didn't use it benigeh the etzba, but l'chura the word ulo akre b'mtzitzas ha'etzba is going on the mayim shebetzba. No, it was on the nichvez, not on the case of the dam. L'chura just a ha'ara that the word mitzitza is being used. Knows originally in the Lashon Rambam he speaks about it benigeh the dam, and at the end when he speaks about mitzitza, it's l'chura benigeh the nichvez, not benigeh the dam.